Hello,
Oh, hi,
hello.
Andrew.
Hey, Jonathan, how are you doing?
I'm doing very good, thank you.
And
Yeah,
hello,
nice to see
everybody.
you again.
Nice to see you. Uh, Thank you, everybody, for joining. I'm Andrew Krajewski, Senior Product Manager at Maxon. I'm very proud to be introducing our new product to you guys today. It's Redshift for architects. Yeah, we've been working really hard the past year to create a bunch of tools for Redshift so that architects could build out their scene. And you could see it right here. I'm playing with right now. You guys saw live videos earlier, but this is actually real time, and I'm navigating it around one of the beautiful scenes that was created for us by one of our partners, Fuchs and Vogel. And like I said, this product is built specifically for architects, and it just came out last month. That's why we have Mr. Jonathan Reeves joining us. He's actually one of the best known people in the architectural visualization space for the YouTube channels. Welcome to Jonathan.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, very impressive. It's really exciting to be part of this. So thank you for inviting me to be on the show, if you like.
Before we get into things, I wanted to get through a little bit of housekeeping first. So like I said, we just released this product last month. It's available on our website. You could purchase it through us or through Vectorworks. We are offering discounts if you purchase it through Vectorworks. So right now is a great time to buy. You could find all the information that you need on our website. It gives a really great breakdown of our benefits and our features. Jonathan's going to go through all of that later, so I'm not going to really go spoil the message for you. But really the idea is to be able to go from a technical drawing to a beautiful render in just minutes. And Jonathan will be the guy to show you the cool stuff. One other thing, we have a free trial. So anybody watching this live stream, you could try the product pretty much right away. So if you go on our landing page over here, you'll see this button saying start free trial. You click it and it'll bring you to a page where you'll be asked to download Maxon app. So if you just download Maxon app, create an account with us, then you'll be asked to join the trial once you log in, as long as you don't already have a subscription. So I encourage you all to go out, jump on the trial, and you get 2 weeks of free of actually all of Maxon's products. But in particular, we'd like to see you giving this a shot because we're really proud of what we've put together. Now, a little bit about our friend Jonathan over here. Jonathan joined the beta program pretty much like when we launched it, like almost
straight in.
Yeah, like it was great. Like you were one of the people that we wanted to bring into our initial reviews, and we didn't even know who you were. And then when we did a bit of research and we saw, okay, well, this is that guy. So it was like really, really nice to see you showing interest in our product. So thanks for that.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah.
Getting your feedback in the beta, as well as all of the users that we worked with, was fantastic in shaping this product into what it is today. Your passion for ArchViz is like very, very palpable. So yeah, I wanted to like kind of set you up to talk about like your approach to ArchViz. Like I'm really interested in how you use this to solve design problems, and specifically how our tool has benefited you in that process.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. Really fantastic. Well, look, just to say from my point of view, getting involved with Maxon and the Redshift team was a really, really enjoyable and enlightening experience. Very professional approach, and thoroughly enjoyable as a professional sort of team. I'd say, really excited about the opportunity to do this, but also just the beta program. The testing was fantastic. So, I'd definitely encourage any of you listening, if you're out there, to get involved in these programs if you're interested in the field of ArchViz.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely something to contribute to. I felt valued, so it was very, very worthwhile.
We love our users. You guys tell us how to make amazing products. So yeah, we just want to hear from you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what I'll do then, if it's okay, I'll lead into a quick little slideshow that I prepared, giving a little bit of information about a bit more about my background, kind of where I got my influences from, not a whole life story, but just a quick intro. And then the main show really is I'd like to do a bit of a attempt to do, always attempt, isn't it, on these things, Andrew, a live demo of Redshift live. With Vectorworks as well, so show you how that works.
Yeah, no, it would also be great if we could talk specifically about some projects you've worked on in the past. Like I think that would be really fascinating.
Oh, amazing, excellent. Well, look, let me jump over to my slideshow now.
Nice.
So, Maxon Redshift. So basically, this is I think only just come out in the first month or so, last month or so. It's the first iteration of Redshift. So very exciting times, but I'm sure there's lots of stuff in the pipeline that Andrew might hint about for future development, although I'm sure there's non-disclosure there too.
I'm listening.
But basically, real-time rendering, for those of you who don't really know or understand what real-time rendering, I'm assuming most of you do, these are the benefits that I found in terms of real-time rendering, which we've now got available. Obviously, we have really amazing instant high-quality feedback and realistic immersive environments. I really love with real-time rendering the fact you have live lighting, materials, and of course very realistic entourage, and things like creating atmosphere with the clouds and the sky and changing the time of day. So basically the use cases that I find for real-time rendering in my architectural workflow are basically right from the beginning, early stage concept, right through massing, modeling, conceptual development.
Yeah,
definitely by the time you get to kind of design development and communication with the client and also planning, it's essential in my view. Andrew, I have to say, I got really passionate about 3D when I was a student back in the day, and I've always worked in 3D my entire career.
Yeah.
Sorry for those of you who are only still working in 2D, but I can't understand how you can still work in just 2D. So I'm sure lots of us are doing 3D. That's why you're here.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah. Big benefits all round through the entire process from my point of view.
Yeah, I think that when we were doing the research for this project, that's really something that stood out, is the fact that like it's used early on in the project as well as late in the project. So a lot of people think of visualization as something that's done towards the end, but it's actually something that you do throughout the entire project lifecycle.
Absolutely. The earlier the better. And that's really where Redshift, and the beauty of Redshift is this sort of plugin for Vectorworks, just sits beautifully. Look, I can't also help mentioning I've been a Mac user my entire career. I do have a big Windows box down there, but I don't use it as much. I love using my Mac. So super excited to see that the new Macs have just come out, the M5 Macs. I've got an M4 Max, which is super powerful, but this is even more. And, according to Apple, we're looking at a really big boost over those performance from even the old M1s, which were still very, very good. So, hardware is really improving. So what this means is the software that we run on, that amazing hardware, we can just push harder and harder. And we get very demanding as architects, I think, Andrew, don't we? We always want better rendering and faster rendering.
Well,
good news is it's here now.
What you guys need is accurate lighting. It's so the idea of ray traced light is almost essential, because that's what takes a lot of processing power too. But that's how you actually see how the sun will look in a scene, how it'll hit a room, how it'll look in an environment. So we also consider the ray tracing aspect of this to be like specifically built for architects too, because it provides that level of accuracy. And with what Apple's been doing, it renders really fast on M5s, M4s, and M3s.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking about trading in for an M5 Max. We'll see, but very, very exciting. My M4 Max is running well. So
whatever excuse we could give everybody to upgrade their computers.
Any excuses. So just really wanted to talk about my ArchViz journey a little bit, just to set the scene for some of the projects and the demos. I thought it'd be interesting to show you my first ever ray traced visual done. Well, I won't say quite the year because you realise my age then, but back when I was at Sheffield University. So my course was a 3-year degree, and back in the day I couldn't actually find a job. It was back in the depths of the recession back at the time. So what I did, I went back to university and did a master's in architecture and computing at Sheffield University. And of course that was where I found my absolute passion. Putting architecture and computing together became my kind of real passion for my career. So this was my first ever ray traced rendering that I did, was very proud of. And, I remember rendering this, Andrew, it took like 48 hours on a...
For what, one frame?
Yeah, one frame, 640 by 480 pixels. I blew it up to A1 size. It was all pixelated. But, everybody was pretty impressed. And my computer was banging away for 48 hours. I was trying to sleep in my student bedroom.
I guess you weren't cold, though.
Not cold, I was hot. But that's where we were, let's call it 25 years ago. I also did quite a few competitions back in the day. I was really keen on visualization during competitions. I did an award-winning competition in '95, which I won, which was cool.
Nice.
Skip forward a little bit. So that was Stratavision, for those who remember the old renderers. And that one was Atlantis, which was my first taste of ray tracing.
Yeah, I don't think that those fell on the radar when we were doing the research for this product.
No,
Though.
no, they're long gone now. They're long gone. I did work on a big project by Richard Rogers, one of my, real inspirational architects. So I kind of was at university when, high tech was all the rage in the architectural kind of style. Richard Rogers, Nicholas Grimshaw, Norman Foster. These were the guys that really inspired me. So I was really excited to work on the Millennium Dome Legacy project. What happened after? And I even modeled the Millennium Dome in Vectorworks 25 years ago. It's amazing, isn't it? So that was fun. Now, fast forward a bit to a few more years later, I started to really want to push the rendering. So I went beyond Vectorworks and what Atlantis and Strata could do. And of course, here, Cinema 4D makes my first appearance.
Yeah.
And I was very pleased with this render. I mean, I must have rendered it 30 times.
I thought that was a photograph, actually. That looks fantastic.
Photo background and then photo montaged.
Yeah.
But yeah, very, very painstaking. But I remember how long it took just to render every time, the 30 renders. It was crazy, but we got there.
Well, like the fact that like a lot of people have been using Cinema 4D for architectural visualization, and in a way, our app is taking like all of the simplest tools from Cinema 4D that people were using to do that, and condensing them down into like a really focused experience for architects.
That's the beauty. That's what I really love about Redshift. Cinema 4D is lovely, but it's complicated software. It takes a long time to learn. I spent a lot of time reading the manuals, as you do back in the day.
Yeah.
I've still got the Release 8 manual on my desk somewhere. But, what I found with, I was able to create these beautiful global illumination, what I call white card renders. And this was a project I did, which was a big master plan. Another interesting project. So I'd like to show this one. This was Canary Wharf, Andrew, down in London, the existing sort of Canary Wharf. I'm sure you've been down that way sometime.
Actually, no, I haven't. I've only been to London once when I met you last October.
There we go. You need to come again.
Yeah,
me and a very famous master planner, Nick Kuhn, who was a paper and pencil man, worked on this area here. So we basically developed all of this in Vectorworks. Now, fast forward a bit closer to where we are. Real-time rendering, about 5 or 6 years ago, I began to get exploratory with real-time rendering. So I entered a competition where I did an animation and used that master planning project. But if you look at the contrast between the white card model without too much detail and then being able to add realistic entourage and realistic lighting with good reflections and, atmospherics, this is where we kind of got to a few years later. So that's quite exciting. I wrote a book a few years ago on twin motion as well. And
next book on Redshift, please.
I will. I'd love to. Yeah, you sponsor me, I will. But really, it's just to show that now, if we took it on another few years, so 5 years ago, I was doing this kind of render. And now, we're looking at basically AI taking over, not taking over, but improving and enhancing our visuals even more.
Yeah.
Now, what's exciting about, I'm sure we'll talk more about AI later, but for me, AI is all about enhancement. It's not about replacing your skills or shortcuts to not be a biz expert. You've got to know what you're doing to feed it something that you are in control of, but then you can use the AI to enhance. And I think that works well for my workflow.
And did you use a video model in this case? Yeah, you used Creo AI.
Yeah, I did actually. I sort of just did a little video for that one. So that was a nice little progression.
Yeah, it'd be like when we have some discussion later, let's talk about technology and the future of where you think these things could be going.
Yeah, very much so.
A lot of things to talk about there.
Yeah, so just a bit about my background. I just wanted to show sort of some of the interesting projects, more just to share them. It's fun to dig out stuff that you did 25 years ago, and I'm really glad I've still got the images more than anything. But,
well, I think it's really useful because a lot of us just want to kind of see the way that these things are used, and the benefit that you're getting out of them, like throughout your career, has been like a palpable.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Yeah, definitely. It's something I've been extremely enjoyed in my career. Okay, so now I'm going to come on a little bit more towards the live demo. So this is a little story I want to talk about this project for this Ecohome that I developed. It was one that I did manage to get planning for, but it had an interesting background. So basically using Vectorworks and early stage visualization, right at the beginning of COVID, actually, I met the client once on site, socially distanced as you do. And the rest of the time, I didn't meet them again in person. Everything was done via Zoom. So I was able to guide the client around in 3D into my project, walking them around in real time, using real-time visualization techniques to get them to understand the design and really kind of engage with it, which was really enlightening for me.
Oh, that's a great idea. Well, a great story of doing architectural approvals during the COVID days when you couldn't actually get physically together. Yeah.
Well, look, pre-COVID, I was teaching and training all over the country. I used to travel a lot, but these days I don't need to travel so much. I can deliver all this online globally, wherever you are, anywhere in the world. So it's fantastic how Zoom and these kind of screen sharing environments.
Well, that's kind of like how a lot of industries have shifted too. So that's another reason why we think that it's been a great time for us to get into the architectural visualization space, because the remote work and the distributed nature of the teams.
Absolutely. The real project highlights on this were much faster client approvals, even though I wasn't meeting them physically. Honestly, it was amazing. It really was a light bulb moment for me. No visualization required or specialist required. That was just me doing it as part of the course. And of course, I did gain a lot of confidence in 3D and presenting in 3D as well. So let's just run through a couple of slides just to show you what happened on this project, this interesting story. So I started off with the site. I think 3 or 4, 5 failed planning applications had been proposed. So I went in with quite a radical design for an earth-sheltered eco-home, as you can see, which was nestled into the environment and really kind of trying to minimize its impact. So this was the first concept that the clients really loved, and developing the model and the visualization together was a very powerful way to communicate the idea, I felt.
Yeah.
These look quite nice, these drone shots, don't they?
I want this for my own house. That's like, I feel like everybody kind of wants this for their own house.
Yeah, I love this house. This is one of my favorite projects I ever designed.
Yeah. So
this was the original render of that project. I also just want to show how you can then go from AI enhancement, which, look, it's a bit better if you notice the difference. I'll just skip back to the first one. We just go back again. Oh, I'm already going forward. Here we go. So there's the original. There is the next one. A little bit of improvement there. But also using AI, potentially, you can actually change things like seasonality now, which is quite exciting. Yeah. So this doesn't mean a whole new set of models and a whole new set of props. The AI can do this for you. And it really preserves the geometry extremely well, actually, if you get it right.
I'm gonna have to see how well it does with snow. As a Canadian, I'll know if it's good enough.
Get ready for the snowy.
Oh, you got a snow one?
We got a snowy one.
Oh, that looks like snow.
It looks good. Doesn't it? It did a good job. So, this is where I think if you create a beautiful model and render nicely, use AI intelligently, you can really kind of like get your images to explore them at different times of the year and so on. Okay, so that was the interesting story for the single-story earth-sheltered development. Now, what happened was, because of the visualization, I submitted a planning application with a wonderful animated walkthrough with music. And, the planning committee, I think, were quite blown away by what they saw. They don't normally get that. They get some black and white drawings normally. So they got excited and they got really on board with the project, which was extremely positive because, as I say, this site is one that they never would have approved a normal house on.
Yeah. How long did it take you to do this animation? You must have had to kind of keyframe that a bit when you were doing it, right?
No, again, this was a little AI time lapse, which basically you just tell the model to build up in stages. So that's quite exciting. It was honestly feed it a single image. Or no, I think I had a start frame and an end frame, and then it filled in between. Pretty cool,
yeah.
Eh?
Love that.
So that was fun. Now, as you can see, this particular version of the project is the 2-story version. So going back to that story, we put the planning application in for the single story. The 2-story emerged in that the planners got on board with the project because they got excited by the visuals. And then during negotiations, they were like, well, maybe you don't have to bury it in the ground and it doesn't have to be single story. And I think the clients were quite pleased because it was less expensive to build above ground. And they had a big family. They wanted 2 stories ideally. So in the end, we did honestly get planning for this project. So this is the one I was going to show the live demo of.
Excellent. Yeah.
Very good. Just before we do the live demo, I just wanted to kind of, let people know that I do professional teaching and training. I focus predominantly on Vectorworks. That's my absolute mainstay, and I've been teaching that for 25 years. But I also teach all the real-time rendering software, of course, including Redshift. And, you know, ArchViz with Vectorworks is my real specialism. So quite exciting. I've got a nice training facility, but as I say, everybody does it online now. So
yeah, but how do we know those aren't AI-generated images?
They're real. They're real. Now, as Andrew introduced earlier, for those of you who don't want to pay for training and you want just to see what I'm up to in my other time, check out my YouTube channel. There's lots of videos on there for you on all sorts of architecture-related software and topics as well.
And you've been posting tutorials for Redshift for Vectorworks consistently over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I should have updated the screenshot, but my latest ones, I've got 4 tutorials now, some that we did together and a few that I've been doing by myself, and more to come as well, for sure.
Excellent,
But,
excellent.
Andrew, you'll be pleased. I did visit the Canadian Rockies last year, which was mind-blowing. It was amazing.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I was this close to moving there, and maybe I will still one day.
Very good, very good. Right, so I think if it's okay, is now a good time to go to the live demo, and then I think we'll have some questions.
Let's do that.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, let's do it.
Right, there we go. So I'm probably going to look at this screen a bit more now. That's my camera screen. But really, here we are in Vectorworks. And let me just sort of introduce that project. So this is the 2-story version of the project. You can see. Let's just minimize that one, bring that to the front.
Well, the Redshift looks the Redshift looks better than the AI-generated version, to be honest.
I'll just shift that one over there just for a minute. Yeah, so I'll give you a kind of little spin around the project. So here is the project. At the moment, you can see I've got all the trees turned off. So I've just turned those on in Vectorworks. So in Vectorworks, I was just using these sort of kind of low poly trees, but actually they looked pretty good in Vectorworks, I thought. Okay, and the way that I set this model up in Vectorworks, I actually have the building model. There's the early stage one, by the way, just in the background there. Here is the actual model itself in isolation. So I model this as the BIM model in splendid isolation in Vectorworks. And this is where I can basically, you know, work on each floor independently to show things like the floor plans. So this generates all the drawings that I need for the architectural, as Andrew said, documentation side. You can see that these were the 2D, if you like, elevations and drawings running through. And then what I do, Andrew, is I take that model and I essentially reference the model into my site file via the referencing section here. So what that means is I've got the architectural model separate without all the trees and the fluff and the cars and all the kind of on-site stuff. I want to keep the architectural model clean. And then in the site model, obviously I can do what I call the context drawings. So if I, pop into my sheets, you can see that I've got some nice sort of isometrics and sort of street scenes and sort of contextual drawings here as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's a really nice little workflow. Building model file, site file, split them up and reference together.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Cool. All right, so now let's go across to Redshift. So let me minimize that one to the side, bring my Redshift screen back across, and we'll try and do that. Yeah, okay, that's cool. So here I am in Vectorworks. Now, I've already launched Redshift. It takes a few seconds to launch, like any software would, okay?
Yeah. And it has to convert the data, so there might be, depending on the scene size, a couple seconds for that to take place. Yeah.
But what I really love is the fact that I can move around in Vectorworks, and it's so seamless. You'll notice, of course, as soon as I pause, the quality improves dramatically in Redshift. And I think that's to do with the static denoiser, potentially. That's a nice little feature that you can turn on or off. So with the static denoiser off, you can see it's pretty responsive and it looks very, very realistic. With the static denoiser on, it just gives it an extra boost, doesn't it, Andrew, when you stop moving, essentially?
Oh, yeah.
Nice little feature. Now, there's all sorts of different settings for what they call upscaling. So depending on the computer you have, how powerful it is, if you've got a supercomputing, maybe go to the high quality setting and even better quality on screen. But I find the balanced one to be a good sort of set between optimizing quality and speed. So that's a nice little bonus.
Yeah, and to be clear, these are render settings for the viewport. So on slower computers, you might want to use lower quality, but when doing a render, it'll switch into the full quality version. So regardless of your navigation quality, your render quality will always be the top notch.
Definitely. Excellent. Right, so I've got a couple of visuals here. Let me just kind of whiz over to these. All right, so we'll start with this one. So you can see that as I change my save view in Vectorworks, which is rather nice, it basically, not only do I get that little animation here, Redshift is just immediately syncing, which is a really lovely feature to be able to have that on my other screen and just be able to kind of design in Vectorworks and then sync live. But at any time, if I do want to,
yeah,
I can step over here and navigate around individually anyway.
Yeah, a bit about navigation, we really wanted to make sure that pretty much anybody that knows the host app, and in this case Vectorworks, felt at home. So that's why you could use basically the host app to navigate within the scene. Or if you're ready to jump in, you just go and navigate kind of like a game. So it's just really easy to pick
up. The keys, WAS and D, like Minecraft or any other computer gaming kind of software, essentially. Okay, so, but you notice as soon as I go back to Vectorworks and I sort of resync, the view syncs. Now that's because with Redshift at the moment, I've got view syncing on. You can turn that off if you're doing a heavy amount of work in Vectorworks and you don't need Redshift syncing, but I'll keep it on for now.
And that would only stop the syncing of the camera position. You still have your data connection happening.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Right, so at the moment, here we are. Let's go around to this rear view one more time. So these are the Vectorworks trees. You'll notice they look okay, but if I go to turn those off, here I've got a little secret layer. I've done a bit of preparation. I've got a Redshift layer. So if I turn on my Redshift layer, you'll see that I get these now proxies appearing. So what happens is these proxies, low resolution sort of boxy or blobby proxies, translate over to incredibly realistic trees in Redshift. Like if we go down and look at the quality of these plants and trees, you'll agree, they are extremely detailed.
So we made an acquisition last year of a company called Lobwork, and you might already be familiar with them. They were, I think Vectorworks was already integrating their models, but they provide like high quality seasonal, like geographically accurate tree models for like dozens and dozens of different varieties of trees, including different ages and different seasons. So that's all available in our library to all users of Redshift.
You can see, if I wanted to, I could change the variance, the size, even things like seasonality as well. So that's really cool. You know, all the different seasons built in. I'll leave it as it is, but that's really nice just in the scene side there when you select the item. Excellent. So let me kind of jump over to one of my views. Let's just go down to this one here. I'm just going to zoom in a bit more and sync my view. So let's talk about how you can add entourage in Redshift and how this works. Okay, so there's a really nice library that you can pop open. In fact, I might just pop over a bit more full screen for a minute onto Redshift. And you can see that with the library, it's very, very comprehensive. It's divided up into, you know, all the different categories you might require. Pretty flexible. I like the way you can kind of like really increase the icon size, which does, you know, you've done a really nice job there. You can basically drag and drop. So if I want to, all I need to do is drag this item into the drawing. It will probably click and tell me that maybe it's on a invisible layer. Sometimes it will give me a warning, but there it is. That's okay. And now it's in, I can just rotate it around. I can move it around. And actually, it's very nice and it will snap to any surface it finds. So that's pretty clever.
Yeah, we've provided a lot of our assets as asset sets like this too. So that's a full, like a full dining room table, but we have like full bedroom scenes, full living room scenes. And then you could just go, if you want to rearrange that set too, you could just go in and grab any of those individual chairs and make a customized version of that layout. So
which try to make fancy, Andrew?
Maybe
you look like a convertible guy to me.
I'm more of a like a beaten up SUV kind of guy.
No worries.
Yeah.
Okay, we've given you a nice little convertible there. So very easy to add the assets, very easy to snap them into position. You can duplicate them as well. As I say, my trees are turned off in this particular view in Redshift. So let me just kind of go over here, and you'll notice that I've actually got some preset views. So if I double click on those views, it might take a second or two, but it should jump over to that view, and it remembers all the settings that I had with that particular view. It also remembers things like the lighting as well. So I'm not sure what I've done here, but I've probably fiddled around with the auto light or something.
Yeah, it must be time of day maybe, or the
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. So you'll notice that you have auto exposure, which is quite nice. In fact, you can see I've got a low exposure there. So if I actually make that 0, that will brighten up the image quite a lot. But I think what happened was I put some internal lights in, and I didn't do it quite right. So I can use the auto exposure just to kind of tone it down a bit more as well.
Since we're using like a light simulation engine, you have to kind of think about exposure in a similar way as you would for a photograph. So that's why in certain cases you'll want to have quite a little bit of control over the exposure, especially if you want the sky to look great and not blown out, etc. It's the same type of problems that you have using a camera in the real world. If you don't want to overexpose things, you have to adjust your exposure a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Let's just talk about the sky just for a minute, because I think this is a nice feature. So I'll just go to my scene here. Let's put my library away. You'll notice that if I go to the environment tab here, it's just so easy to swing through different times of day. And once the denoiser kicks in, probably want to just maybe boost up that exposure back to 0 again. Yeah, there we go. That's better. You can see very instant, very easy to modify. So, you know, physically accurate, I think, Andrew, as well, isn't it? So if you line your model to true north and geolocate it, it's actually got all the data that it needs to go through any time and any day of the year.
Yeah, exactly. We also have a night sky that's physically accurate, although we do make it a little bit easier to get a proper exposure of the sky. So maybe it's not quite physically accurate, but it's accurate in terms of the star positions.
You can see that I'm able to move at night time around. I haven't got any lights on in the model now, so hence it's all a bit dark.
Oh yeah, this is exactly. Like if you try and take a picture outside at night, it'll look just as dark.
I guess this is where you want to boost up the ambient light a little bit here.
Exactly.
But okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Lights are one of the big areas that we want to be expanding this year. That's later in the year, one of our main roadmap items.
Yeah, let's just talk about the cloud system. Very nice and simple. You know, not too many settings here. Kind of just does what you need it to do. And basically what I also like about this is you've got the ability to load in some presets as well and save your own presets as well. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, we try to have presets for almost anything that has more than 2 or 3 sliders. There's many cases where we're still adding them. It's coming more and more, but we'd like it to make it so that for almost anything you have an option to just drag and drop in the scene and have something that looks great.
Yeah, I mean, I can double click them to invoke them, or as I say, I can just preset them. So very nice and simple, very straightforward. I like that. Excellent. Okay, so that's looking good. So we can visualize very nicely externally with our realistic sort of props and plants, much better than Vectorworks offers, if you like. And yeah, it's fine. Most CAD systems are not designed to hold high poly trees like a visualization system. That's the real benefit of splitting the workflow between your CAD system and your visualizer, isn't it? To have these proxies in one software. Okay, so let me go and see if I can get back to Vectorworks for a second. Nice little trick, by the way, if you are a Vectorworks user, let me just show you this, is if you go to auto hide your palettes, actually really nice that. You can go into full screen with Vectorworks and pretty much full screen with Redshift as well. And what happens is, I like the way the panels just slide out when you need them. So that's pretty cool.
We'd like to do that in this app as well. So we have ideas similar to that, to be able to use it full screen much more easily. Yeah,
definitely. Excellent. Right. So I think it's time we went inside the project now. So you can see that inside, I do actually have some lights. So those are just managed in Vectorworks on a layer. So I'm just going to turn those off for a second. You will notice quite a big difference. So what I might do is play around with the lighting without those lights on, and then we'll turn them on in a minute. You'll also notice that I've got the Redshift assets. If I want them outside, I can turn them on. they're on a layer and they're on a class in Vectorworks. So that's nice, the way they do automatically. I like the way that works, Andrew. It makes it very easy to manage in Vectorworks.
Yeah. You could also set it to add the assets and objects to your active working layer in the Redshift options if you look in Vectorworks. But the default is that we create a layer for our objects.
Yeah, definitely. So you can see it's looking a bit dark at the moment. So, now's the time to maybe boost up my auto exposure or turn off auto exposure and just go to manual exposure. Actually, sometimes, sometimes auto exposure just does too much, doesn't it? You've got to kind of tune it.
Yeah. And they work together. So like you could have auto exposure and the exposure will add an exposure value to that. So
it kind of compensates.
Yeah.
But what I think I'll do, I think I'll just pop back and turn the lights on. It definitely looks nicer. But, lighting in Vectorworks is something that I find a lot of my clients struggle with, to be honest. I don't think it's that complicated. But what you don't see in Vectorworks is the beautiful lighting in the shaded view. It makes a little difference, but not massively. What you really notice is the difference in Redshift. So for example, if I do select those lights, let's say I boost them up in terms of brightness value, you immediately see the gains coming through to Redshift, whereas you don't really notice that in Vectorworks in the CAD software. And that's, partially because it's not ray tracing in the same kind of way.
We also have a way of controlling the imported lights globally from the environment panel. So if you have lights in your scene and you just want them all to be a little bit brighter, you could go there and use that slider and it'll boost them.
There we go. Yeah. That's it. You can see, you can globally brighten them up.
And that's like just the first step towards us supporting these lights. So
I think if I make them 100% intensity, that makes sense. So now what it means is in Vectorworks, I could probably go back and just make them a lot dimmer in Vectorworks, and that would have that effect over there.
It's basically a multiplier, yeah.
Yeah, you've got a lot of nice control. So, definitely a big improvement on the lighting side. So let's sort of just talk about the ability to move around in this scene. So again, now I can move around using these WASD keys. And again, I can adjust the speed of the movement. In fact, now I'm inside, I'll also increase the trace depth. I normally find just Andrew for 1 is fine for externals. You don't notice much difference.
Yeah.
It's the amount of bounces, I think. You'll know more than me, but the amount of bounces of the GI, is it?
It essentially gives you more bounces of light, so you will get a bit more light on an interior scene because it'll give more scattered light from the outside. Yeah,
very nice. And does that slow performance down? I guess it will if you've got more bounces.
Yeah, it will. But since you're inside, you might be rendering a bit less anyway, so it's worth playing with those things. People should be used to kind of playing with these things as they go to get the performance and the image they want. And we will be adding presets there too, so that's just easy to choose options for high performance, low performance, and interiors and exteriors.
Definitely. Now you notice that when I put the auto exposure on, it's gone a bit darker outside. That's probably because I've got all these internal lights pumping away. We'll go with that for now. What I think is super nice is you'll see that quality of the asset. So here is a Vectorworks table. In fact, I've got the Vectorworks table in the Vectorworks model still showing. So let me just show you a nice little tip here. All I need to do here to turn off that particular table is I'm going to go to the visibility tool. And as long as I'm careful, I can use the visibility, object visibility mode. Hopefully I've got the right one. There we go. I did manage to turn it off correctly. So you can see that I've turned off the visibility for that object. If I really wanted, I could turn off the visibility for things like those chairs as well. So this is quite a useful tool, the fact you don't have to have things in a separate class or layer if you want to affect their changes.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I'm learning Vectorworks here too. I didn't even know about the invisibility tool.
Yeah, definitely. So let's take my object here. What's also quite nice is within the scene, when you go into things like the objects, if you look at the objects here, not only is it all managed in the same way that it would be in Vectorworks, so it's very natural the way it sits with the Vectorworks layering system. I think this is excellent. And the fact is, each of the objects that you've added are listed and itemized. I've got a few suggestions on some future improvements here. I think some grouping would be good and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we do want to add grouping. That's something that is going to be coming, but there's complications because it has to represent the same structure in the host app. So we wanted to make sure we took a little bit of feedback from users before we put anything in there.
Yeah, definitely. I think I might have turned off the actual tabletop as well in there when I did the second click, but you can manage the visibilities in here. So if I do want to, I can turn off that group, and you can see that some of it turns off, at least the tabletop. Sorry about the tabletop's missing because I turned it off. So visibility is very easy to manipulate and modify.
Yeah, and those visibility states get saved per view, like you were saying before. A view saves like whatever object visibilities you have set, as well as different object parameters. So if you have different transforms on custom objects from us, you could have like a chair in 2 different locations in 2 different views, for example. Materials are also overridden per view, so you could have 2 different views with 2 different sets of material overrides as well.
Let me talk about how you do the material override. So I'm going to go back to my home. I've actually got in my favorites some nice materials already. You can see I like this. You can create your favorite sort of collection of materials and objects and props, things like this. So, if I just want to add some new materials here, let's just try out a new material. So what's nice is I can just drag that onto the Vectorworks material. And basically, Andrew, that globally replaces the Vectorworks material with that new Redshift material.
Yeah.
Let's just try that again. You can see very easy to swap out those materials.
And if you want to have different materials on different surfaces, you would assign them in Vectorworks. So essentially, we're mapping to the Vectorworks material definitions that you've created. And that's why for all of the objects that have that same material, they all get the same override.
You'll notice that I can still select the object. And if I want to, I see the material override. If I do want to just revert it, I can just go back to the standard. So that's cool as well. The fact you can remove it easily if you tried something out.
Or if you wanted to maybe change the color of it slightly, you could also do that from that control. You'll actually, it might not be in the build that you have, but you'll have the ability to edit those.
Oh, really? Is that a new feature that's coming?
Yeah, we've had a new version coming out in a couple of weeks, and we have a version in May, a version in June and July.
Oh, very good.
Updates scheduled for the whole year, including major feature updates.
Very exciting. So you see, it's pretty easy to do the mapping and sort of scale these things around. I can do things like change the gamma and swap things out. So we've got these controls, but as Andrew says, seems like some of those are going to be improving even more in the future. Very cool.
Yeah, we're going to be adding full support for all material controls. So right now you could only color correct materials. But later this year, you'll be able to do all channel manipulations. So like metalness, normals, bump maps, you name it. We're working on that right now.
Very, very good. Excellent. So I think the ability to sort of set these various views out, let me just show you how that works once again. So let's go and search the nice view. Now, this is the real benefit of real time. The fact that we can kind of search for the view we want, a bit like a photographer, sort of framing up a nice view of our project. I think that's quite a nice little view there, just looking over those trees. Let's just refine that one. And all I need to do is just click create. So that's now saved that new view. Now, if I did want to change the lighting for all the images at the same time, all I've got to do is click apply changes across and start modifying things like the sky. That will have a dramatic effect of changing it for not just this view, but all the views. So that's cool. But if you don't want that, you can just turn that off and just modify the individual. So it's quite well thought through, I think. I like the way that's implemented.
We made it easy so that you could either edit the single view you're on or all the views simply by checking off that little checkbox there.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, look, like any traditional ArchViz, should we say, process, searching for the right view, trying to get that composition, you're always looking for the rule of thirds or the golden spiral or, whatever it is. Andrew, that might be a nice suggestion for future add in some of these what I call composition overlays. That would be a really cool little feature
I love that idea.
Yeah, that'd be really nice.
That's on my personal list of things I really want to get done, and I think it is a great idea just in general, because it helps you just frame a perfect shot. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, look, we've already got some advanced camera settings. Let me just talk about these for a minute. So if we go to show all camera attributes, you go now deeper into the settings. So here you can do that final refinement on things like the framing. You've also got, I should have mentioned this, but you've also got orthogonal projections. I'm not going to do it now, but that would mean that you can render out elevations and plans beautifully. So you can get those into Vectorworks and put them back onto your sheets as, you know, rendered elevations. And to be fair, they will render pretty quickly. We've got all the exposure controls, which we've seen before, but they're just all in one place here, which is quite nice. Vignetting, the traditional vignetting that you have. LUTs, I haven't actually loaded in any of those yet. Or LUTs. You just load in a file, I think, Andrew. Do you supply any of these?
So those would take standard Redshift LUTs. That's something that we should be. We are adding presets for the whole set of post effects here this year as well. So I
think it'd be nice to bundle some together, make it easy for people rather than going off into the internet and dark corners downloading LUT files.
These things are basically going to be as accessible as like an Instagram filter, and you'll be able to choose different looks that you want to apply to your renders.
Amazing. Now, you know, nice little features like which make a bit of a difference, a bit of things like bloom. So you can just turn the bloom off, or let's put it on. You've now got kind of some nice little controls, so you can just kind of get a little bit of subtle bloom in there, which is very, very nice.
I love the bloom, and I love the streak, and I love the flare. Maybe just one of those needs to be applied at a time, but make it look like it's shot with a lens.
There's a danger of going a bit crazy with these things. In fact, you know, let's turn off the flare. I do like the streaks, actually. They look good, particularly on internals.
Yeah.
So these are nice little kind of extra, are they post effects, would you say?
Yeah, they're all post effects. And we're going to be adding depth of field effects here this year too, so you'll be able to focus the lens and have lens blurs as well.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, so we've got a nice level of more detailed control, but the average user might not necessarily need to go in there straight away. You know, this is when you take things to the next level, sort of archviz-wise.
Yeah, so and they do have an impact on your performance too. So you might have a slower frame rate if you turn on the post effects.
Yeah, definitely. So if it's okay with you, Andrew, I might move over from the stage. I feel like we've covered most of the...
Well, I think that we're just missing a little bit of grass in that green, on that land there. Maybe
the scatter.
Yeah, let's just get some scattered grass.
Tell you what, let me save that right to the end, because, you know, that's my last thing to do. I'll come back to that. So we've covered the objects, how you manage the visibility and the objects in the environment. That works really well, very seamlessly with Vectorworks. We've covered how easy it is to swap things like the lighting, the time of day, introduce things like clouds. You can actually load in HDRIs as well, very, very easily. I think I've got a couple of HDRIs here. By default, it actually brings in the Vectorworks HDRIs, actually. So if you are using HDRI in Vectorworks, they will come in. Let me just load in this one, see how it looks. Yeah, you can see immediately just gives a different look to the scene. Works quite nicely. And you can rotate that round. But look, I'm quite keen on using the physical lighting. I find this...
And to be clear, we also kind of derive lighting from HDRIs because they represent light sources for the scene too.
Yeah.
So if you have an accurate HDRI of your site, that might be an accurate, the best way to use it too.
Yeah, photo matching potentially. Then we've got all the materials, and as I say, one of the wonderful things about Redshift is, of course, the quality of those materials. You know, I don't know how you do it, but you make the most amazing materials at Maxon.
It's like a lot of hard work from a lot of really talented people. Yeah.
Yeah. While you don't have all the level of control that you have in, say, Cinema 4D to make that material from scratch, in a way, that's the whole point of Redshift, to stay away from that stuff, isn't it? And just use what's available and maybe modify them and tweak them.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm just going to pop over and sort of move a bit more towards the end with the little storyboard feature, which is nice. So with storyboarding, essentially you can create an image and you can set up some sort of predefined movements. Now I can see that I've still got my lights on inside now. I might just see if I can turn those off.
You probably have it saved to the view, but when you add a view to the storyboard,
oh yeah,
it did.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, when I click it, it will come back. Yeah. But basically, what I can do is select my view, and I've got some really simple controls for things like camera animations. So you've got all the traditional things like dolly, camera, pan, orbit, those kind of things. And I think you were saying you might even potentially add some more in the future.
Yeah, like I'm interested in seeing where people go with this. I come from a filmmaking background, so I want to build like tons and tons of stuff here. And we have basically the system is set up to do anything. But when we talked to architects, it seemed like a lot of people needed this to be very simple. So the philosophy behind this is that it's as easy to make an animation as it is to make a still image. So you choose a view, you create your view, and that's your snapshot. And then you just choose the animation that you want to apply. And we use our experience. We have filmmakers and we know the kind of shots that you want to make. So we could turn that basically into presets that just get rendered. It looks like we have some exposure adjustments to make though.
Yeah, I've not quite got my exposure right on those images, but you get the idea. Now, of course, those are individual views. When you're ready, you can animate all of this and go to the render section. So over here is where you can not only render the, should we say, the still image, and you can obviously still make those final tweaks and adjustments, which is nice. And then you just hit render, and you can render, I think, right up to 4K or even more, custom, even more than 4K.
Yeah, I think that you could enter a value there.
4K is always enough for me, I can tell you.
I think that a lot of people still have enough with 1080 as well.
Yeah, definitely. Very good, very good. Well, look, I think on that note, we better leave some time for questions. But if I may, I will just see if I can just add that scatter. So
yeah, that's too satisfying to miss.
It is. Now, would you recommend a preset for this, Andrew? What do you think?
Yeah, we have a bunch of scatter presets, and you could just kind of drag that in. So if you go, there you go.
Just start searching for some scatters. Which one would you like? A nice trimmed lawn or a bit more wild?
This place looks like it's well manicured. So you could just drag that into the middle area there, and it should just apply it automatically.
Cool. So this basically features a sort of pre-made variant with 3 or 4 different assets.
Yeah.
And all I need to do is click on the pipette and click on my surface, and then give it a second or so, and you'll notice that will start populating.
Oh, it looks like the camera got moved.
Yeah, sometimes that can happen.
That's a little glitch.
Forward. You can see we have now populated using very, very detailed. Oh, that's awesome, actually. Obviously, my computer's fans are wearing up a bit more now.
If you deselect it, it'll get rid of those highlights too. Yeah, there you go. So that looks great. Yeah,
that looks incredible. Yeah, I mean, very, very detailed. Now, of course, this is why I did it at the end, because it's demanding on the computer. But look at the level of detail, incredible.
Yeah, so, that's millions of blades of ray tracing.
I mean, I can't resist. I'm trying to crash my computer now. Let's see if I can replace it. Oh, actually, so I just go to here. In fact, I can just select it, can't I?
Yeah, you could select it from the scene. You use the selection tool, so that would be the top tool in your toolbar, or hit escape first, because you're still in the scatter tool right now.
Or I can just go and select it in the scatter and click edit, which is kind of nice. And can I just drag in a new one then? Is that?
I think it works.
Yeah. Let's try it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Will it replace it, or will it just add to it? We'll see. But yeah, no, very, very nice. I like the way that you can manage the visibility of those things as well. But look at the difference between the Vectorworks grass and the Redshift grass. I think that's a pretty good note to end on. I'm more than happy to come back for the demo, but I can see the time has whizzed away.
Oh my God,
so leave a bit of time for some questions.
Yep, let's do that. Let's do that. Mr. Max, do we have any questions?
Hey, Max.
Oh, no questions so far. Well, that's even better. We didn't miss anybody. Well, like I wanted to ask, like where do you see like the best uses for these AI tools that you've been showing us to? That's a big question for us in how we're proceeding. We are investing in AI as well. But we've been focusing on really getting the accuracy of the integration of our ray tracer in there. And AI sometimes conflicts with trying to get accuracy. So yeah, we really want to have the right and a unique approach to this. So I'm kind of always open to hearing what people have to say.
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic, of course. All the rendering software trying to sort of push the AI. I mean, in fact, every business out there is kind of AI, obsessed, I would say. Like you say, you've got to have an intelligent approach to it, and the right approach. For me, it's all about enhancement and improvement. I think there's a couple of areas. One might be creating seamless materials. Maybe that's potentially something to help you make your materials. That's always takes time. The other one really is the enhancement. That's already there, though. It's just about adding detail that you haven't rendered, but it can interpret that. Well, to be fair, the blades of grass looked amazing before. Normally you would give it that and it would interpret that and improve the grass.
Yeah.
So I think improvement and enhancement definitely. I guess things like lighting potentially might, help a bit, because that's always the fiddliest bit, isn't it?
When I think of the best use case of this, it's like you say, it's how do we enhance what the user is doing. And we already have a good representation of the scene. We already have a good renderer. We know that we provide really great tools to build out the scene. So that's why I think focusing on stuff like materials is really interesting to me, because that's where we're taking, and in many cases, BIM data is already associated with the materials from an architect, right? So we're taking that in and we're enhancing it. We're making it more useful and even like something that they could continue to use in the future. I'm wondering if you what your thoughts are on things like generating models. Like with some of these AI, you could just generate an Eames chair or
I've seen it done where people photograph a few bits of furniture and generate a 3D model, but the results are not very high quality. They're quite meshy. They're often clunky. They're okay for something in the distance, but the models that you get with Maxon Redshift and Cinema 4D, they're such high quality models. I'd much rather use those.
Yeah.
Of course, if you need to use the specific model and you can't find it in the Redshift library, it's a solution, but you're never going to get that level of quality at the moment, I don't think.
I'm also thinking that animation is an area where AI could help a lot. So if you want to have people in a space and have them look natural, like they have like an idle loop, they look relaxed, they don't look just posed. That's also something that we're looking at.
Yeah, definitely. And, like you say, there's so many different AI softwares out there. Some of them are already kind of able to interpret a space or an image you throw, and then add a dog, add a person sat on the sofa drinking a glass of wine. Bringing it to life in that way becomes easier, but you still got to give it the good base render. So for those of you out there thinking AI is just going to make everything like no skill, I don't think that's the case.
No.
I think it's going to just be a tool that skilled professionals can use to enhance what they do, to get even better quality and hopefully save a bit of time. You still got to get those base skills. So, learning to model in whatever CAD or BIM software you do, bolting on a real-time rendering solution such as Redshift is, in my view, it's essential for any architect or designer, but, it's just something that I've always enjoyed doing in my career. I really enjoy the visualization process.
Yeah.
It becomes part of the driver for why I want to design and do something, because I want to see what it's going to look like as realistically as possible.
I think that's one of the things that made us so lucky to make this product. And this is the point I guess we'll finish on today. We're about to run out of time, but we're very lucky that we exist at the point in your design process where you get the satisfaction of seeing your design. So we're there when you should be feeling the most satisfaction. And that's why we built this product to be engaging and just satisfying to use, because we want to enhance that moment. We know that you get to see your design, it feels good. And for an architect, that's part of the value here too that we're trying to propose. So I'm really glad that you see that. Yeah.
Definitely. 2D CAD drafting, where we all started sort of back at the beginning of our career is it's essential to document a project, but that's not what excites most designers and captures. It's the creation of space, the bouncing of the light around that space, and understanding how you can inhabit that space through a three-dimensional visualization is as close as we can get. I mean, okay, VR and all these other things are out there or coming. They've been coming for a long time. But for
Mm,
me, you know, it's very satisfying just creating a beautifully put together visual.
yeah,
And for me, Maxon, Cinema 4D, and Redshift, well, we haven't talked about cinema much, but if you want to take it further, you can, can't you, Andrew? You can
yeah, exactly.
send it to Cinema 4D, which is a
Oh yeah.
super feature.
So like I was saying before, the app is almost a scaled down version of Cinema 4D, but the scene you create is literally a C4D project. So you could
Yep.
export it into C4D and then use all of those tools, all of those production like features, and yeah, get the highest quality cinema shots that you want out of that. So,
Sounds like a perfect another Maxon Live to follow on, but how you go from Vectorworks to Redshift, then to Cinema, to
that's
take it even
next.
further.
Oh yeah. Well, looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Like it's been a pleasure talking to you as always. And thank you everybody for joining our live stream. Really excited to see you trying our tool. Like I said, please give the trial a shot. It's there for 2 weeks and is available to all of you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, everybody. It's very nice to reach you all. And thanks, Andrew, for hosting.
Cheers. Thank you.
Take care.